Hello game fans and welcome to another video from Game Anglia. So today I'm going to be speaking to Francisc Apostu and he's a game developer that's worked in studios such as Ubisoft and now works for No Moon. And so I'm going to ask him a few questions about game development to really sort of get under the skin of both being in the AAA industry and both the indie industry. So thank you very much for taking time to talk to me today.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, so my first question really was, so you've worked on a number of different titles at Ubisoft, including Watch Dogs 2. What can you tell me, or what are you allowed to tell me about life at Ubisoft and in a AAA studio?
Well, probably it really depends from studio to studio. Obviously, you know that Ubisoft has studios all over the world. It has one in Bucharest where I worked there for like 6 years. And the culture, it's pretty much the same in the whole Ubisoft, but it differs from culture to culture, and because they have studios in different locations, a lot of things might differ depending on the culture in that respective country, obviously. But for us, I mean, Ubisoft represents in Bucharest a school for people that definitely want to start in game development. But also it has a lot of veterans. I mean, people that even worked from '91 when the studio first got open there. Yeah, and pretty much the culture around the Bucharest studio is around learning more than anything. Around learning and interacting with the local with the local indie developers, with the local people that want to go into the gaming industry. And because the industry in Romania, it's not that developed yet, in the game industry, obviously Ubisoft supports that as well, as much as possible. So yeah, while I was at Ubisoft, everything was focused on, for example, internships. Yeah, a lot of people coming in, a lot of people we got to mentor, a lot of people that wanted to start off in the gaming industry. And other than that, yes, we had a couple of big projects in Bucharest. Before Watch Dogs 2 and 1, the studio was involved in creating Silent Hunter, for example, Silent Hunter series. These were fully developed in Bucharest, which was an immense achievement for the studio. And after that, Ubisoft kind of changed the approach, and studios all over the world were working on a single project. For example, Watch Dogs 2 had, I don't know, maybe around 300 people working, and some of them were also in Bucharest.
There's so many side missions and side quests to flesh out. So.
Exactly. For example, in Ubisoft Bucharest, on the Watch Dogs 1 and 2, we were particularly working on the multiplayer sides and side missions. I, for example, in Watch Dogs 1, I worked a lot on the driving missions. I was working on the design of the vehicles and how these both multiplayer and open world emergent missions were working in the world. And I got actually to spend a lot of time with some interns on that project, and it was really a great experience because of that.
And in your gameography, I suppose, you've got these cool games such as the Watch Dogs 1 and Watch Dogs 2, yeah. But I also noticed that you worked on an ABBA game. Are you an ABBA fan? Are you no longer an ABBA fan? What was it like to work on an ABBA game?
I mean, I don't think you can tell that some people hate ABBA. I mean, I think we all love their music, what they've done, how they contributed to the music industry. But yeah, I've worked on an ABBA game, which was kind of a spin-off of the popular Just Dance games. Yeah. And but in that project, it was just ABBA music. Yeah. And I mean, the only memorable thing for me, at least for that project, was that I listened for a couple of months ABBA every day, right? I mean, I can't complain, but now I know their music. If you're gonna put me an ABBA song, I'm gonna know the lyrics, right?
Also, maybe later now, karaoke.
Yeah, exactly. But now I would definitely not listen to ABBA anymore, unfortunately. Although I appreciate their music.
Okay. And so, having worked in this AAA studio, do you think it's prepared you for a career in the indie scene? And how do you think that maybe indie developers should maybe start in a large studio before going indie?
So, for me in particular, yes, it was a good start for my career in the game industry. I was basically at the beginning an intern there. but I wouldn't necessarily say that it does prepare you for the indie scene, because the indie scene largely differs from the AAA culture and workspace. And for me in particular, yes, it was a good start, but I stayed there for 6 years. Now, in retrospective, I probably wouldn't stay that longer anymore in a AAA company at the beginning of a game career.
Okay.
Why? Because AAA companies in general, obviously with big budgets, big projects, big teams, they over specialize people, and because of that, at some point when you start specializing on a certain field, it basically doesn't prepare you for the indie scene at all. It kind of funnels all your skills to one or two maximum, and because of that, when you go outside of the gaming company and maybe you decide to go indie, or you go in a more, let's say, a small studio where you need to do a lot more, or at least have the understanding of other fields and skills involved in the game development, you will be quite limited.
Okay.
But after all, the AAA companies are a good entry in general for people, but not for long. I would advise for people that want to start in the game industry not to stay too long in a AAA studio.
Okay. And so, what is the indie game scene like in Romania at the moment? Is it a growing industry now?
Well, for a couple months or something like a year, the indie scene started to grow very well because of some really good initiatives in Romania. For example, we have an association of game developers that is pushing towards regulations and having a lot of attention from the state on the industry and so on. But other than that, people started emerging. We have social media now, we have things that we can use on the web, and they started realizing the importance of getting out there, even if just with the name, or even just saying, hey, we're working on something, right? So yeah, now the indie scene is growing. Probably we have I don't know, 70 studios or something like that in the whole Romania. Probably there are more, but I don't know about them. But it's a growing industry right now, and hopefully in the next years we're gonna also have some, how it is in UK or Canada, for example, a lot of funding from state with supporting indie developers or indie businesses in general, indie game development businesses.
Oh, okay. And I know that both yourself and Alex Simeon, who also is doing the talk today, you're both kind of big fans of game jams, and I was just wondering how important are game jams to indie developers?
Well, they're important for a couple of reasons. Probably you have heard a lot of these, and a lot of people know about them. One is obviously connections. The second one is about trying to push your limit and quite learn something new maybe. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have this misconception, and it's easier to say what is not about in a game jam. And in a game jam, it's not about the game actually. A lot of people might say, "What do you mean? It's a game jam. We're going there to create a game, right?" Well, no, actually, yes, you're going to create a game, but that's just the pretext. You're not going there to create a game. Actually, you're going there to on an adventure, on a very short adventure indeed.
Right, okay.
It's like going in a dungeon, right?
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily go there to have a really big impact. Oh, we have a publishable game, or we did really a really fun idea. Yes, some ideas might emerge from game jams being very innovative and good to publish, even at the end of the game jam, even without having any polish. But the process is the most important thing. Creating that game, working with your team, or working alone and learning new things and so on. And because of that, you have a sense that, oh, not just what I do matters, but also what others do matter in a game project.
Okay. Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, because I think a lot of people will come to game jams thinking that I get there, I put together a mechanic and I get rewarded for it, but there's just so much more to being in a game jam these days.
Yeah, definitely.
And I hear you're part of a game jam in Romania where you're kind of turning things on its head. I was wondering if you can talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, for a couple of years, me and others, we saw this opportunity to organize game jams in Romania, and because of that, we obviously we see other indie developers emerging, from the shadows, and we knew about them. Oh, okay, so you're that as well. You're there as well. But in time, we saw, let's say, a direction for the companies in Romania, big companies, creating game jams for recruitment processes, which is not the best thing, because basically the scope of the game jam, as I said before, changes a bit. It becomes a competition more than anything. You're not talking with the people there anymore. You're trying to do the best game so you can stand out in the recruitment process, right?
Okay.
Our approach was to create something new, something a little bit more targeted, and we wanted to target the lack of leadership in general in the gaming industry. Obviously, there's a lot of lack of leadership in the whole gaming industry, but especially in Romania, because, as I said earlier, a lot of people are very specialized in something, and because of that, they do not have a holistic view of the game development process. They are, I know how to draw, I know how to code, and that's pretty much it. But now we saw this opportunity in trying to create a game jam that specifically targets people to learn how it is to be a leader, right? To learn leadership in game development. And because of that, we created an initiative called Almost a Hero, which is sort of like a platform of education targeted towards students, and both students, high school students and university students, where we invite them, for example, in the game jam that we do in Almost a Hero, which is called Game Director for a Weekend.
Okay.
You basically have a team of professionals from other companies, studios, and so on, that know how to do a game in 24 hours or 48 hours, and you, as a high school student or a university student, you're the leader of that team.
So
and that's basically
the professionals.
Sorry?
You lead the industry professionals.
Exactly. Okay. They come in, they register, they're being selected, and as a leader, they have these industry professionals that they can lead towards creating a game in a 24-hour game jam or a 48-hour game jam. And this is basically the twist of the whole thing.
Okay, so the new developer coming in, they would get sort of put in check if all of a sudden they say, right, okay, I want this 3D platformer where they're going to be able to teleport, they're going to be able to jump, they're going to be able to drill down, they're going to be able to do all these amazing things, and then the professionals will say, right, let's rein it in, this is what we can achieve, this is what we can't.
Exactly.
And give them more of an idea of the scope.
Yeah, and that way they're gonna learn, they're gonna have the opportunity to learn, at least to speak the language of each skill, and see that holistic view of the project, of okay, what it is feasible and what is not feasible in this time period, or what are the steps in creating this genre or that genre, for example.
All right, well, that's excellent. So, but also, I was thinking that you've just released a new game. So, Mind Night came out. Is it July on Steam?
Yeah.
And pixel art. It looks amazing. And I was just wondering if you could tell me more about what Mind Night is.
So, in No Moon, we created No Moon like a year ago, and we started working on a lot of projects. Meanwhile, some they're in the queue, some are not anymore, and at some point we said to take a break, and we've done a game jam. Basically, we've done an internal game jam, and we said, okay, let's just have fun for a weekend, and we realized that we have this thing that we played for years. We played for years Werewolf, The Resistance, all of these card games and board games, tabletop games, yeah. And we said, okay, let's maybe have this challenge of trying to translate the mechanics of a game of deduction and social influence face to face to a digital medium. So we started by trying to do this challenge, and we come up with Mind Night, which right now is a game where you chat with other people in a room, and basically you have the rules that are pretty similar to Werewolf and the Resistance tabletop games. And through the chat system, you need to deduct which are the bad guys and which are the good guys to fulfill the missions. Once you do that, you need to obviously convince others, and it has this dynamic of creating conversational gameplay. It's more of an experimental game for us. Was not like, okay, we're gonna definitely do a lot of business with this game or something. But no, it was like, okay, we did this. Let's just publish it because we were really satisfied with the end result.
So it's a sort of a single screen game, and it just encourages the 4 players to really interact with each other and to question them outside of the normal rules of conversation. You don't have the set rules of conversation. You can just have a literal conversation and try and figure out
exactly.
if a person is about it.
The game can be played between 6 and 5 and 8 players right now, because we balanced it out a bit. And each player gonna take on a secret role, and the hackers, for example, are the bad guys. The agents are the good guys. The hackers know about each other. The agents don't know about each other, and they need to go through 5 missions. Each mission gonna be hacked or secured by the agents. Hacked by the hackers, secured by the agents. And when three nodes are gonna be captured by either one side, they're gonna win the game, and the other's gonna obviously lose the game. And you have all sorts of things that you can figure out and deduct out of, for example, the vote patterns, because people vote on what missions they go and what missions they don't. Regarding after a player proposes a mission, and because of that, you can also deduct things like, okay, who went on a mission and been hacked, and he's saying that he's not a hacker, for example, and you're like, maybe you're a hacker. And obviously a conversation ensue, arguments ensue, rage quits ensue, obviously.
Yeah, found him out. And so this is a relatively new game, only been out a few months. So have you got an idea of how you're going to raise visibility? What's the plan to get it out into the world?
So as I said earlier, the game itself doesn't really represent a priority for us in Known right now. It was just a game jam game, and we went, publishing it because it was really fun. Right now we don't have a lot of players. We don't have, let's say, a lot of online sessions, up online sessions right now. But we're planning in doing an update, and because of that, we want to, just do one marketing push. And what we've done, especially for this, is just using mailing lists. What we had, talking with YouTubers and streamers, and other than that, we just responded to people that wanted to review the game. We haven't done a lot of effort, as I said, because it's not really a priority for us, but we're doing a big update right now where you'll be able to customize your character, have skins, you can have gestures, you're gonna have emojis, and you can unlock these and so on. And because of this update, we're gonna do another marketing push.
Okay.
But other than that, we kind of focused more on marketing the company right now, because it's a new company. Yeah. We're doing a lot of projects, and we need to kind of have presence on the web to attract investors and publishers. Okay. So what we've done is to start, we've done articles about how we work and what we do and what are our experiences in other companies, and how we leverage on these so we can create a new environment, a new work environment in Known. Just to get the word there about the company and how we work. This is like a prerequisite on when we will reach the point when we're going to launch a game and people are going to say, oh, so they have some history, these are the people, the articles and so on. But other than that, we haven't done much right now.
Yeah. And my last question is, what I'm going to be asking everyone today is, what advice would you give to new game devs who are just starting their game dev journey? What advice from your experience in both AAA and the indie scene, what would you give to that person just starting out?
So for someone that wants to start in the game industry, it's important not to decide at some point, I want to be part of the game industry. If it doesn't happen organically, it most probably not going to happen really well for you in the start. If you really want to go into game industry, then you're going to probably want to start in an established studio. And this is the best thing to do, with being mindful that you don't want to be super specialized. If you want to do your own games at some point in time, If you don't want to do your games at some point in time, then it's fine to be specialized in something and be the best at that thing in that studio or in several studios. And secondly, not staying too long in that respective studio, because if you want to do your own games, you need to take what is important from you, that studio, and move on. You need to know when to move on, and not just from studios but also your projects. If you don't want to go in a gaming company and you think you have what it takes, to be independent, to start on your game project from home and be, self-educated from the web, you have obviously tons of tutorials on the web. You can do that as well, but it's gonna take much longer. You're gonna need to spend a lot more time in working with others so you can learn from others. If you don't do that, you're gonna basically start working on your pet project, and 5 years later, that pet project might not be the thing that you wanted to do after all, because things change, your perception changes, the industry changes, the market changes, distribution channels, and so on. Yes, you may have learned a lot of things, but not as much as you would want to have at that moment in time.
Oh, that's really helpful. Yeah, I can see that. So, 5 years down the line, what started as, I'm going to release a game, is suddenly outdated, it's not interesting, it's just not relevant anymore, but you've just spent too long doing it. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, if this video has been useful, then please give it a like, give it a subscribe, and we'll be back with another interview very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.